And we are live.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
everyone.
Hello and welcome to our 5th edition of the Learning Journeys in 2021, hosted as usual by Germany's Federal Government Center of Excellence for the Cultural and Creative Industry. Yeah, and thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Tim Doyle, and along with our implementation partner, Julian Adenauer from Retune, we will guide you today through today's learning journey. Leonard Zipper will answer your questions in the chat in the meanwhile, and Jan Rogal later will join us in one of the sessions. Yeah, we are back from our summer break, as you noticed, and today we again have new topics and guests, and they will join us in a few moments and share, as usual, their exciting insights and expertise. Today's specific topic is urban futures, and together we will try to answer the question, how are the cultural and creative industries shaping urban futures? The topic relates to one of our latest published papers, Urban Futures Through Cultural and Creative Industries, Strategies of Location Development in Second Cities in Germany and Europe. The paper we developed features 10 international cities where the cultural and creative industries have played a central role in the development of the cities. Yeah, and we are happy to welcome three guests today who are experts and participated in this paper. These experts are Barbara Rettenmeier, urban planner at the Karlsruher Fächer GmbH in Germany, Dr. Michal Hladký, Director of Creative Industry Košice in Slovakia, and last but not least, Dr. Tom Fleming from Tom Fleming Creative Consultancy in United Kingdom. Yeah, and now I hand over to you, Julian, to explain us a bit the procedure of today's learning journey.
Yeah, thank you for the nice introduction. As you might have noticed, for the people who have been here before, we are speaking English today. At least we're trying. I hope you can understand us speaking English. That's because two of our guests are not German. So we extend our focus of this event and go international. I'm not sure, how are we continuing this international learning journey thing, or is that a one-time thing, Tim?
Yeah, it's for sure a premiere of today, and we will see how it goes, and we're quite excited how it goes, and if we can connect to our international audience as well.
Yeah,
we will see and find out during the night.
Yeah. I will say a few words about this tool for those of you who haven't been in Hop-In before. When you see and hear us, you are on the stage, so you have taken the first big step and made it from the reception to the stage. That's very good. You can and are very welcome to use the chat on the right to ask questions while we are speaking here. So feel free to interact with us, ask questions, or just say hello or something like that. And you can also, that's the part on the right. So you see the chat, and there's also the questionnaire that you can already click on. But Tim will read that out in a second also, because we have 2 questions there already that you could answer. But there will be more later after the first part of the event. Speaking of which, I wanted to say that there are 2 parts in this event. The first part is happening on the stage here. So Tim and me will be talking to the 3 guests we have for approximately 10 or 12 minutes each. And after that, we'll have everybody on stage for a short panel discussion, a very short one, also like 10 minutes. And then it should be around 7 o'clock already. And then it's time for you, the audience, to get on stage as well. That happens in the sessions, and you get there by hitting the sessions button on the left. It's called Sitzungen in German. Very nice word. Sitzungen. You're all sitting probably, so that fits. You are very welcome to join these sessions and also activate your camera and your microphone so you can ask questions directly and discuss with our experts. But if you are not, if you are a bit camera shy, then you're also welcome to just ask questions in the chat over there. I didn't read what is on my list here. I think that's all.
Sounds good.
We just go ahead and we talk about the questionnaire, right? So please go ahead.
Right. Yes, of course. We actually have 3 questions for you only, so it's quite a short questionnaire. The first question is: do you know of any collaborations between the cultural and creative?
Sorry, Tim. Sorry to have to interrupt you. We only have 2 questions for now. I think the other questions come later. At least we did it that way back.
Of course,
but perhaps I'm wrong. Well, we only have 2 questions. So, is it the first time that you're here with the Creative Industries Federal Government Center of Excellence for the Cultural and Creative Industries? And the other one is: how did you learn about the event? Please go ahead and answer these. You find them in the right panel on the right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I think it's already time to get our first guest on stage, who is Tom. Tom, where are you? Let's get you on stage. Hey, Tom.
Hey there, good evening.
Good evening. Tom is based in London, right? Where it's very hot today.
Yeah, London and Porto.
Yeah, and you are running an international consultancy for cultural policy and strategy for cities, regions, and nations. That's what my script says here. That sounds very good. And in the paper that Tim mentioned already, you contributed your insights to the transformation process in Guimarães. That's a city. Guimarães. We were not completely sure how to pronounce it. I'm very sorry, my Portuguese is really bad. But it's a city in Portugal that is today a hotspot for fashion and design. That's what I hear. Perhaps you can tell us a bit about the situation of the city when you first came there.
Sure, and thank you for the opportunity to take a trip down memory lane, as they say in England. It's nearly 10 years since Guimarães was European Capital of Culture, and it's about 15 years since I started working with that city. And since then, obviously, so much has happened, including me setting up our consultancy after Brexit in northern Portugal to be closer to where this process started. So it feels like a nice circularity that we're exploring today. Guimarães is a small city in the north of Portugal, in the Minho region. It's a very, very old city. It is in fact the birthplace of the Portuguese nation was in the city of Guimarães, and it's very close to the heart of the Portuguese people because of that. It was the first capital. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's got a very distinctive old town. There's over 1 million people in Brazil with the second name or the surname Guimarães, so it travels in terms of the imagination. But it's also, if we go back to the early part of this century, it was very much a city that was struggling for purpose and identity. Although it has this rich and deep history and a lot of beauty in terms of its architecture and its ambience, it was struggling in terms of its economy. Its core industrial base that had grown in the 20th century was around cutlery, around textiles, around leather. There was a growing diversification in terms of being a tourism city or a city that provides services, but that wasn't replacing the employment base that those traditional industries had. So there was quite high unemployment and underemployment, and a lot of people were leaving the city, attracted not just to Porto, which is the regional big city, but actually increasingly internationally. And that region as a whole has historically been the source of most international out-migration from Portugal, looking for a better life, a more prosperous future. So economically, it was struggling. It was struggling, as I mentioned, in terms of its identity and its purpose, which often is related to economic decline. There was a challenge in terms of the identity and ownership of the city in terms of its future. So I mentioned young people were leaving. There's the old people. There's a sense that the older generation was holding the cards or holding the keys in terms of what the city was about, who it was for. So it felt quite heavy, sort of quite closed as a city. And that deep history kind of weighs heavily on the shoulders of the city as well, I guess. But at the same time, it had a youthful vibe emerging. The University of Minho has a big campus in the city. There was a sense of change. And the process of the European Capital of Culture was an accelerator of that change. And it was also underpinned by the first cultural and creative industry strategy for the north of Portugal, which stimulated quite a lot of investment in terms of infrastructure, but also business support and capacity building for the creative industries in the whole region. But Guimarães, as one of the main free cities in the region, was a recipient of significant investment. So this provided the platform for transformation. And then, as I mentioned, the European Capital of Culture was an opportunity to genuinely reimagine the city on a more public stage with some significant investment.
Nice. And so the process started, what did you say, like 15 years ago? Or when was it when you joined the project 15 years ago?
Yeah, it was the first regional study on the creative industries in Portugal was 2007-8. The process of developing the proposal for Guimarães to be the European Capital of Culture commenced in around 2009. So that whole development and planning phase took a while. And then it was just 1 year in the spotlight for being European Capital of Culture 2012 to 2013. And then there's a series of legacy activities that happen subsequently. So it's been a long relationship, and obviously I dip in and out of the city, and we set up our office nearby in Porto to connect more regularly, but also to connect with what I think is really interesting in Portugal is this renaissance of the smaller city. Where they have a lot of cities around 50,000 to 100,000, only two really big cities. So they've got to be quite imaginative in thinking about how they build a sustainable, inclusive, innovative cities that are somehow stickier for talent and attractive for people to come to visit, to live in, and to work in.
Yeah. What were the main things that were done in the city to attract the creative industry and to transform the city?
Okay, well, there were a series of interventions, and some of them were interwoven with the European Capital of Culture, others less so. In our work, or my work, I was the director of the Cidade, or City Program for European Capital of Culture. And that was all around rethinking what is possible and achievable in a smaller city context. So we focused on three themes overall. One was about space and rethinking the public realm, the utilities, the infrastructure of the city. There was a significant regeneration process that was underway, but there was also quite a significant process to look at how you use public space, how to repurpose things like the old market, to think about old retail. In some ways, we were quite not ahead of the curve, but one of the early adopters of things like meanwhile creative space in old abandoned retail, and also utilizing industrial space for temporary but increasingly longer term for active creative repurposing. So there's a lot of experimentation with that theme around how can you turn the raw materials of the city, its physical environment, into something that's more dynamic and productive and innovative, underpinned by the creative industries and inclusive of the arts. One of the key projects there was around a new design institute in a district called Kuros, which is an old leather tanning district, which had become very run down and marginalized. And the University of Minho set up this new hub for design practice, which had a fab lab, which was, everyone's got one nowadays, but it was quite a new thing back then. Co-working space, project space, activity space, and this became a key kind of anchor for demonstrating this kind of rejuvenation and possibility of the city. Then the second theme in Guimarães was around entrepreneurship and activating talent, Talentosh program, as we called it. So this involved creative entrepreneurship training, developing networks. We had an accelerator program. We had bootcamp activities. We also had some sector-specific programs. So we had something called Fashion Hub, which was a program to identify and reach out and support and accelerate the development of fashion entrepreneurs from across the north of Portugal. And the north of Portugal has some real strengths there and a real history of fashion design and textile development. And that enabled us to accelerate a cohort of fashion designers. And we also brought them to market. We took them to London Fashion Week, to Paris Fashion Week, and to other events. And that showcased that you can be from the smaller cities to the edge of Europe notionally, but you can actually access markets across the world. And some of those businesses are still here today and have developed and grown as a consequence. And then the third, sorry.
Yeah. No, continue, yeah. Sorry.
Okay. And then the third theme, very quickly, was about kind of interdisciplinarity and looking at the spillover effects of the creative industries. So we did a lot of work with the different traditional sectors in cutlery and textiles, in tourism as well. And we invested in collaboration projects, looking at how creatives can impact those sectors that needed to build their innovation capacity. And we set up a creative hub called On-Off that did that as well. So that looked at the more holistic impact of creativity for the economy as a whole.
Yeah, nice. How do you say some of them are still there? How do you make sure that this change is sustainable, like that the things that stay different and it doesn't go back to normal after this city of culture thing?
Yeah, well, that's the hardest thing of all. And obviously, we were still recovering from the economic crisis of 2008 when we were developing the program. And then obviously subsequent to that, they've been building up to the crisis that we're all currently facing. And it's hard in contexts where there's a lack of agglomeration and capacity to build sustainable clusters. I think that the focus in Guimarães, what worked was that it was a holistic or a 360 degree approach. So it wasn't just about building entrepreneurship, it wasn't just about the hardware in terms of things like workspace, skills, investment programs. It was also about livability, quality of life, and cultural programming, seeing the city as a platform for the new and innovative cultural programming. So there's a lot of investment in establishing it as a platform. The city is a platform for creative expression, and trying to sell an idea that you can build your creative business, but you can do so from a micro city environment, and that requires being part of a more networked economy, regionally, but also internationally. And I think that perhaps we were in the early days of conceptualizing the role of the smaller city back then. But if we look now at what's happening with COVID, and even the mayor of Milan recently was talking about how we need to kind of rethink the rhythms of the city. And notionally, people who are in bigger cities now are thinking about quality of life. They recognize they can develop their enterprise in many contexts now because digital connectivity is so much stronger than it was 10 years ago. They recognize that you can work collaboratively in international teams from almost anywhere. So I think that the opportunity is now for smaller cities, as we emerge from this crisis, to actually present themselves as the future of culture and creative-led development, which is sustainable, inclusive, and built on quality, rather than this kind of mad rush for agglomeration that we see in larger cities. So not everything has stayed the same. The major success story is probably Farfetch, and some of you might know about Farfetch, which is a major digital platform essentially for online fashion retail, and it's a big company. And they started in a innovation park just to the edge of the city in Guimarães. So we used to love the T-shirts they had, which were sort of Paris, London, Berlin, New York, and Guimarães. And I think that summarizes the kind of the ambition, but also the sense of humor that's in the city.
Yeah, nice. I have a lot of more questions, and Oliver Rack also has a question. I think we have to talk about all of these later. because we are over time already for you. Thank you so much, Tom, for the insights, and we'll see each other in a few minutes on the panel here.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's time then, Julian, to welcome our second guest, Michal Hradky.
There he is already.
Hey, Michal. Good to see you.
Hi.
Yeah, Michal, you have been involved as a project manager in the process of making Košice in Slovakia, the European Capital of Culture in 2013. And now you're also, as we can see also in your background, the director of the legacy organization Creative Industries, Košice. Can you tell us a bit about the background of Košice, and as it's known now to shift from Steel City to Creative City?
Yeah, as already Tom was mentioning, the city of Košice isn't that big. It's the second biggest city in Slovakia, but it's only 250K. And we decided back in 2006-07 that the city is gonna apply for European Capital of Culture. And very similarly as Guimarães, city was really battling problems of brain drain and lack of what we identified in that time, culture infrastructure. So we hoping on that wave of using abandoned industrial or army spaces or infrastructural spaces which weren't used for its purpose for several years. So we used that as a playground for the European Capital of Culture. So in terms of infrastructure, the whole project came with almost 21 investment projects, out of which 2 or 3 are really significant. So we redeveloped the old military warehouses, over 12,000 square meters for the culture. Then we used the abandoned swimming pool. But my favorite project was and still is the heat exchangers, which is a small infrastructure building in a housing estates around the city. So if you imagine all socialistic housing estates with a block of flats, there is a lot of infrastructure as well, smaller buildings. So we used that and rebuild it to community culture centers. So if you imagine the city, the center point of the whole project was these military warehouses, but then we have satellites of those smaller buildings, bringing culture and community development to the neighborhoods, because the project brought, I would say, 3 major topics or themes. One was the lacking infrastructure. So city didn't have really proper spaces for contemporary culture and support of creative industries, being the studio or affordable office spaces for creative entrepreneurs or whatever. That was one topic of infrastructure. The second one was the support of communities and civic life or civic engagement through the culture programming and culture events. So that was where we used those satellite buildings, smaller, what we call spots. They still operate nowadays as a community centers and small culture centers for neighborhoods. And the third part or third pillar of the development was the support of culture creative industries, not only with the infrastructure, but mostly with and this I would refer back to Tom as well, the international connections for those artists. So we developed a program called Košice Artists in Residency, which started in 2011, and until now over 150 artists traveled here to Košice or from Košice or Slovakia somewhere else. So we also build a network of collaboration with the similar organizations around Europe. We were also part of establishing or founding organizations of European Creative Business Network, which we then leverage. We also start running the international collaboration, or we call it creative residencies for entrepreneurs, using hubs in Rotterdam, UK, in Bristol, in Dortmund, in Tel Aviv, in different cities around Europe, like Malmo, etc., which then brings and help raise the profile of the entrepreneurs or individuals working in culture creative industries. So that made really city, or that helped city to rise international profile, also on very individual level. So individual people or smaller organizations could use the connection we built thanks to European Capital of Culture. And in 2012, we come up with the master plan for creative economy, and we somehow envisioned that there was a parallel process of a development of IT sector or digital sector in the city, and we thought that okay, those two focuses, or let's say areas, are developing in the city in the parallel. So we have to come up with a narrative which would bring those culture creative industries and digital technologies or digital sector together. So we came up with an idea to apply for the UNESCO Creative City in Media Arts, because Media Arts is a very good narrative how to bring those two segments together. So, and then our organization was leading partner of this initiative, and in 2017, city became a UNESCO Creative City in Media Arts. And now we are in network with the cities like Linz, Karlsruhe, or Austin, Texas, Tel Aviv, Sapporo, and others. So that again bring us to more opportunity for the city to rise international profile, but also to help entrepreneurs and innovative ideas to go and be exported, for instance, or come from international environment and reach the local environment. So that's also one of the activities we do as an organization. Because city, after European Capital of Culture, which was in 2013, city decided not to close the NGO, which was responsible for the development of the whole project and then providing the program. But we decided that we gonna shift a bit in the profile. So we stopped doing a culture production. So city established another organization which is now operating all the infrastructure and buildings, and we became something as a development organization for culture in the city. And with the rising international profile, we also start being part of EU and international projects, which brings more and more opportunities to the city, not only for our organization, but also for the others which whom we represent. And we run programs rising from the educational programs to the professional development programs, to international collaborations, also research. And recently we start really advising city in a strategic development in terms of how to leverage on what's being done since 2007-8, when we started with all the project and programs, how to be more innovative in terms of human development. So we use this narrative connecting culture creative industries with the digital technologies as a, let's say, a very good platform for any innovation in any sector which can happen. So when this comes up to the cross-sectorial collaboration. So we also run programs like artistic residencies in business. So business or companies using artists to come up with innovative ideas. So something like Conexiones Improbables is doing in Spain, or Tilt was doing in Sweden. And this is something which was very popular, or is still very popular among the, let's say, business community. And we find out that being part of business communities might be a very good road. So we became a part of different clusters like IT Valley, which is digital cluster in Košice, then Visit Košice, which is organization helping or doing the destination management in the city. We also are part of economical chamber, American Chamber of Commerce, etc. So then we also represent culture creative industries along with other sectors, and we also advocate for them in the other sectors. So that really raises the profile of the city in the different areas, not only being a culture creative but also coming closer to the business, coming closer to other sectors, and just advocate for culture creative industries. And then city recognize it, and now we also are part of the strategic development of the city, helping city and advising city with the strategic documents.
Michael, sorry to interrupt you, but we are running out of time, and I would just quickly like to know, building up networks, especially on an international scale, has been a major factor for you, as what I hear. And where do you see have been lying the biggest challenges in this process? What do you think to build up those relationships?
I wouldn't call it a challenge, but it all takes time. So, and if you have to convince your local stakeholders, it's very difficult to tell them that, okay, we started the process, but it will take 3 to 5 years once you start seeing the results. So it's like you have to be very bold and convincing at the beginning, but then with the time, it really brings results. Then they are convinced. And for the city, being a European capital of culture, it was a very good lesson. So it's much easier to convince them for any innovation of futuristic ideas or collaborations they couldn't imagine if there wasn't any European capital of culture project.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Julian. I think we have to move to our next guest since the time is running out.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Michael, for the insights. We will have you on stage in a few minutes again, and then in the sessions also again to discuss all of this further. I'm sorry, I was just like clicking through the slides you said. It didn't always make sense together, but I think you got an idea what is happening in Košice. Yeah, so see you in a bit. And then we can, actually, we are switching to German for our last guest, making it, das macht es ein bisschen einfacher für uns. Ich hoffe, I hope that everybody who only understands English will bear with us for the next 10 minutes when we talk to Barbara. We will be back to English after that. But I think for everybody who speaks German, you get away now with 10 minutes of us not speaking bad English. That's perhaps a good thing. Barbara, ich hole dich mal hier schon mal auf die Bühne. Schön, dass du auch bei uns bist. Du bist uns aus Karlsruhe zugeschaltet. Ich habe ja in Karlsruhe studiert. Ich kenne also die Stadt sogar ein bisschen. Du bist dort Urban Planner. Jetzt ist natürlich meine Introduction auf Englisch trotzdem. Jetzt muss ich gleichzeitig hier parallel übersetzen. Und du arbeitest für eine Real Estate, für eine Immobiliengesellschaft, die aber der Stadt gehört. Und du warst dort unter anderem, du machst da viele andere Sachen auch, aber du bist die Projektmanagerin für die Transformation des alten Schlachthofs in Karlsruhe in eine kommerzielle Commercial Area steht hier. Was heißt das auf Deutsch? Ich krieg's nicht hin. In einer Gegend, in der ihr Gewerbegebiet. Ja, würdest du das Gewerbegebiet nennen, den Schlachthof?
Gewerbegebiet.
Geil. Gewerbegebiet ist so ein schönes, richtig schönes
ist ein Gewerbegebiet.
Gewerbegebiet, genau. Das aber vor allem Kreativwirtschaft, Kultur- und Kreativwirtschaft beinhaltet. Erzähl uns doch mal ein bisschen was. Wie war denn so die Ausgangssituation in Karlsruhe auf diesem Areal oder in der Stadt generell, bevor ihr da tätig geworden seid?
Also wir haben 2005 dieses Areal in die Hände bekommen mit der Aufgabe, was draus zu machen, beziehungsweise uns Dinge zu überlegen. Und da war schon klar, dass der Schlachthof, das Gebiet ist vielleicht kannst du das Luftbild einblenden.
Na sicher.
Ist auch interessanter.
Moment. Guck mal.
Ist ein 7 Hektar großes Areal, das im 19. Jahrhundert als Schlachthof gebaut wurde oder als großer Viehhandels- und Schlachtplatz, dass man das hier nicht mehr weiterführen will aus unterschiedlichen Gründen und dass man sich für dieses Areal eine neue Nutzung überlegen muss. Von dem Viehhandelsbereich sieht man nichts mehr, das ist rechts im Bild, aber links der Rasengleise sieht man noch quasi die alten Schlachtgebäude. Wir haben uns auch, wie Kosice und die portugiesische Stadt, deren Namen ich auch nicht aussprechen kann, um den Titel einer Kulturhauptstadt beworben, aber anders als die anderen beiden keinen Zuschlag bekommen. Den hatte in Deutschland Essen bekommen mit der Ruhr, was mit Sicherheit total verdient war und auch sicher die bessere, für die anderen Besucher die richtigere Wahl. Aber im Zuge dieser Bewerbung hat man sich quasi für dieses Areal ein Konzept überlegt, nämlich ein Gewerbegebiet der besonderen Art. Ich sage ausdrücklich immer deshalb Gewerbegebiet, weil es eben kein großes Kulturareal ist. Es sind dort Künstler am Arbeiten, es gibt auch Kulturveranstaltungen, aber der Hauptschwerpunkt dieses Areals war, den Bürgern, dem Gemeinderat, der Politik und der höheren Politik und Bund und Land zu vermitteln, dass man mit Kultur und kreativen Gedanken tatsächlich Geld verdienen kann. Dass es um Wirtschaftszweige geht und nicht nur um Subventionsempfänger, um Leute, die irgendwie von Steuergeldern leben, mehr schlecht als recht, sondern dass da tatsächlich eine wirtschaftliche Strahlkraft drin steckt und dass man davon als Stadt auch langfristig leben kann. Und mit dieser Grundidee hat man quasi diese Kultur- und Kreativwirtschaftsidee verfolgt, nämlich einen Ort zu schaffen, an dem man kultur- und kreativwirtschaftlich arbeiten kann und auch leben. Aber das Arbeiten steht hier im Vordergrund. Vielleicht kannst du ein Bild weitergehen. Wir haben Gebäude vorgefunden, die für kalt und dunkel gebaut wurden und nicht unbedingt für die Nutzung durch Menschen oder Aufenthalt, Arbeiten, sich wohlfühlen, strukturiert waren. Wir haben trotzdem versucht, so viel wie möglich zu lassen. Also das Bild zeigt ein nach 2 Millionen Euro schwerem Umbau fertiges Gebäude, in dem wirklich nur gemacht wurde, was unbedingt gemacht werden musste. Das hat den Hintergrund, dass wir natürlich für diese Konversion eigentlich keine Kohle hatten. Und zum anderen hat es aber auch den Hintergrund, dass uns ganz arg wichtig war, dass man diesen Geist dieses Ortes, also dass man quasi die Identität, die starke Atmosphäre, die dort herrscht, auch weiterhin im Gelände spürbar macht und dass man das nicht wegsaniert. Und ich weiß nicht, ob ich das hier sagen kann, aber so ein bisschen ein Beispiel, an dem wir uns nicht orientieren wollten, war die Kulturbrauerei in Berlin, in die sehr, sehr viel Geld geflossen ist und wo man jetzt außen an die Steine klopfen muss, um rauszufinden, ob es tatsächlich noch Steine sind oder ob da irgendwie jemand quasi eine Kunstwelt aufgebaut hat. Das wollten wir nicht, sondern wir wollten etwas sehr Graues. Bitte das nächste Bild.
Bei uns gibt es ja wenigstens ein paar Leute, die das dann mit Graffiti beschmieren
in
immer.
dem Zug auch. Ja, das ist, kommt schon auch. Allerdings mehr im Außenbereich. Und ein Stück weit stecken wir sehr viel Liebe in die Gestaltung dieses Areals. Also wir machen ein Gestaltungshandbuch entwickelt, wir haben machen Architektenwettbewerbe, machen Kunstwettbewerbe und das hindert so ein bisschen also wir haben viele künstlerische Graffitis, aber das hindert so ein bisschen das allgemeine Geschmier irgendwie. Man merkt die Liebe, mit der dort gearbeitet wird. Das Bild zeigt ein Existenzgründerzentrum, also es ging uns nicht nur darum, Firmen in der Kultur- und Kreativwirtschaft einen Raum zu geben, sondern den Absolventen einen Raum zu geben. Ich denke, das ist in den anderen Städten auch ein Riesenthema, dass man quasi der Michael hat es ja auch gerade ein bisschen erklärt, dass man versucht, die jungen Kreativen in der Stadt zu halten und die nicht immer aus den Mittelstädten quasi in die Großstädte abwandern zu lassen. Und das Bild zeigt hier das Existenzgründerzentrum, in dem für einige Jahre eine schwer subventionierte Möglichkeit geschaffen wird, sich mit einer Firmengründung mal auszuprobieren. Und wenn es funktioniert, freuen wir uns und vermitteln weitere Flächen in den Nachbargebäuden. Und wenn es nicht funktioniert, hat man zumindest nicht seine komplette Zukunft irgendwie in die Tonne gehauen, weil man sehr viel Geld in Räumlichkeiten stecken musste. Vielleicht noch eins weiter. Du kannst es aber auch einfach so weiterklicken, wie du denkst. Wir haben auch versucht, die Nutzer mit einzubeziehen in die Entwicklung. Also es war keine Geschichte, die wir uns als Immobilienentwickler ausgedacht haben, als Projektentwickler oder als Planerinnen. Es war auch keine Geschichte, die rein basiert auf Ideen des Gemeinderats war, sondern wir haben da quasi gestartet mit großen Beteiligungsverfahren zur Entwicklung des Grundkonzeptes. Wir haben seither eine Menge an Beteiligungsstrukturen entwickelt, sodass wir dieses Projekt immer mit den Nutzenden zusammen entwickeln, sowohl in der Gebäudestruktur als auch in der Nutzungsentwicklung. Das halten wir für sehr zielführend und sehr wichtig, dass man quasi da so eine dynamische Entwicklung mit reinbringt, dass man nicht irgendwann einmal festlegt, wie es werden soll und dann quasi nie wieder drüber redet und immer noch so einer Idee anhängt, die aus den Nullerjahren resultiert, was ein ziemlicher Spagat immer ist oder eine ziemliche Debatte auch auslöst, weil natürlich auch nicht jede neue Idee auf dem Areal gleich irgendwie das ursprüngliche Konzept hinwegkriegen soll. Also es ist ein permanenter Diskurs, so sagt man freundlich, wir sagen es aber auch ehrlich, wir leben da tatsächlich auch immer ein bisschen im Streit um die beste Idee und entwickeln in dieser Diskussion oder in dieser Auseinandersetzung gemeinsam mit Nutzenden und mit der Politik und mit den Leuten, die sich für Kultur interessieren, quasi dieses Areal weiter. Vielleicht noch ein Bild, habe ich noch ein Bild? Genau, das Weiterentwicklung bezieht sich nicht nur auf die Umnutzung der vorhandenen Gebäude, die aus dem Schlachtbetrieb resultieren, sondern auch die Bespielung von Neubauflächen. Da sieht das Ganze dann schon ein bisschen schicker aus. Auch das ist ein Gründerzentrum, allerdings Gründerzentrum Teil 2. Wenn man dann es geschafft hat, ein paar Jahre zu überstehen und weiter wachsen, dann sind es quasi die Flächen, die man dann beziehen kann.
Darf man aus dem Schlachtbetrieb raus und in den schicken Neubau?
Ja, das ist das Beschissene an Neubauten, dass die immer gleich schick aussehen. Also man kann machen, was man will. Wir haben hier, ich weiß nicht, ob Architekten zuhören, Sichtbetonqualität 0 vereinbart. Das heißt, die Betonbauer dürfen das so roh lassen, wie es irgendwie geht. Und trotzdem sieht es gleich schick aus. Kann man nicht ändern. Ist so.
Ja, so ist das.
Das letzte Bild und dann bin ich auch schon durch. Was uns aber genauso wichtig war, den richtigen Nutzungsmix im Inneren der Gebäude und eine heterogene Belegschaft aus erfolgreichen und Neugründerinnen ist die Nutzung des Außenraums. Also für uns war ganz bestimmendes Element, dass das, was man im Inneren tut, sich in den Außenraum abspielen soll. Wir haben dazu ein Wort erfunden, das heißt, oder nicht wir, sondern die Astok hat ein Wort erfunden, das heißt Aurazone, das heißt, jedes Haus kriegt einen Vorgarten. Das hört sich total verspießt an, heißt aber, dass quasi die Nutzung dessen, was im Inneren passiert, nach außen tritt, dass man draußen Aktivitäten entfaltet, dass Arbeitsprozesse auch draußen stattfinden und dass auch diese Kommunikation im Gebiet ganz stark über die natürliche Bespielung dieses Außenraums stattfindet. Das sind so die Hauptpunkte, über die ich reden will. Was jetzt auf uns zukommt, nach 15 Jahren der Konversion und eigentlich mit den Gebäuden sind wir ziemlich durch, ist die Frage der Gentrifizierung. Das hat mittlerweile auch das Gewerbe ereilt und ich habe auch den Beitrag von Michael so verstanden, dass man dann ein bisschen aufpassen muss, dass nicht quasi die Erfolgreichen in der Szene dann dafür sorgen, dass quasi die Kleinen wieder irgendwo anders hin müssen und es keinen Platz mehr gibt. Das ist der Punkt, an dem wir gerade stehen, wo wir auch so ein bisschen die Kreuzhüterschaft übernehmen müssen, dass man nicht Flächen nach Geld vergibt, sondern dass man quasi immer nach der besten Idee guckt oder dass man nach Nutzungsmix und Heterogenität guckt und dass der Streit lebendig bleibt.
Ja, war dieses Vorgehen...
Irgendwelche Fragen, die ich noch nicht...
Ja, ich hätte noch eine Frage, wie dieses Vorgehen, also dass ihr so die alle mit einbezieht und sowas, das war doch wahrscheinlich was Neues, oder? Wurde so noch nie gemacht in Karlsruhe in der Stadtentwicklung, oder?
Also wir haben in Karlsruhe eine sehr aktive Beteiligungskultur schon seit den frühen 90ern. Vorher weiß ich es nicht, vorher haben die Kollegen nichts erzählt, aber primär im Wohnungswesen. Und zwar gibt es hier mehrere große Kasernenareale, die nach dem Abzug der Amerikaner und der Franzosen umgebaut wurden. Und da hat man schon mit den künftigen mit künftigen Bewohnerinnen und Bewohnern schon versucht, quasi gemeinsame Festlegungen zu treffen und auch ein Beteiligungsverfahren zu machen. Dann bauen wir eine U-Bahn. Warum genau, weiß ich nicht, aber wir bauen eine U-Bahn. Und auch da gab es ein ganz umfangreiches Beteiligungsverfahren. Das heißt, diese Beteiligungskultur gab es schon, allerdings noch nicht angewendet auf Gewerbegebiete. Das ist immer so ein bisschen, das ist immer der letzte Punkt. Also wir haben in der Gewerbegebietsentwicklung als letztes die Klimaanpassung entdeckt. Wir haben als letztes irgendwie die Aufenthaltsqualitäten im öffentlichen Raum entdeckt. Wir haben als letztes das Thema Verkehrssteuerung entdeckt. Und wir haben eben auch als letztes die Beteiligungskultur entdeckt.
Naja, wenigstens habt ihr das hier entdeckt, ist doch super. Für die das nicht wissen, Karlsruhe wird untertunnelt. Seit vielen Jahren gibt es große Bohrer, die einmal unter der Stadt, 10 große Bohrer, genau, nur so nebenbei, um das aufzuklären. Jetzt, ich weiß, Tim, wir sind schon zu spät dran, aber trotzdem, ich finde das super, dass Oliver so viel fragt im Chat. Jetzt will ich trotzdem kurz die Frage aufgreifen, weil ich es auch interessant finde. Er fragt nämlich, ob es auch Ansiedlungen aus Frankreich gibt, was ja sehr nah und naheliegend wäre. Also wie sieht es da mit internationalen Vernetzungen aus?
Also es gibt, ich wüsste nicht, dass wir ein elsässisches oder ein französisches Unternehmen haben. Ich glaube, dass die Orientierung des Elsasses sich sehr stark nach Straßburg ausrichtet, weil Straßburg ja als kreativer Hotspot schon ganz, ganz lange aktiv ist. Also da sind wir wirklich der kleine Bruder.
Ja. Okay. Super, Barbara. Vielen Dank für deinen Input. Ich würde sagen, wir holen jetzt, we are switching back to English and we are getting everybody else on stage to have a big stage party here. Welcome back, Tom and Michael. Sorry for this German excursion. Did you understand anything? No. No, but there were very nice images. I haven't been in Karlsruhe since I don't know, for years, and I didn't know that it looks so nice there. Perhaps I would have stayed in Karlsruhe and not moved to Berlin. Perhaps. Yeah, we have a few minutes for a panel discussion. I was really interested to hear that everything seems to revolve around the creative cities of culture thing by European Capital of Culture thing. So that seems to be a really big thing. Is that true? Michael, perhaps?
Yes.
Sorry.
At least for Košice, it was real big impact. Like the city really changed its profile, and after European Capital of Culture and around that, a lot of other services were developed. And also the approach to tourism and approach to cross-sectorial collaboration, and also it appears in local policies, and we became an example on a national level as well. So the national or the ministries were looking at our examples and how we approach different things. So yeah, for us it was really a kick-starting moment, which is evolving still. We are still in the process.
Yeah. What I found especially interesting was that even though Karlsruhe didn't get it, it still had a lot of power to transform the city. I think that's astonishing. Tom, did you welcome? Sorry, Barbara.
I think it's more due to the ZKM and UNESCO City of Media Arts, which is also Karlsruhe a year ago, I think.
Yes.
Than to this cultural thing.
European Capital of Culture. That's the word.
Yeah.
European.
Yeah, if I can jump in, I think that there is good practice, there is mediocre practice, and there's plenty of bad practice as well. And I think the reason why Košice is seen as a beacon, really, is that European Capital of Culture felt authentic in that the city had a strategy, it had the appetite, and it had a long-term vision. And we never know what the city would have become if you hadn't won the title in Košice. But my gut feeling is that actually culture and the creative industries would still have been a key element in the city's renaissance or reinvigoration. In Karlsruhe is a great example as well. I was there 10 years ago, I think, and those images look like a very different city. So something's happened. And I guess, you need political leadership, you need strong partnership, you need to engage and embrace your creative talent. So they feel an ownership of this. This isn't something being put down on them. They're driving this. And you need to take some risks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My other question, sorry, Tim, do you want to jump in here?
I would just wanted to know if you think there could be any like blueprints or learnings which you would share with other cities who maybe also are on the way to apply for this cultural capital of Europe. I mean, it's a big question, but
yeah, but there are like you can find the similarities when you compare the projects, for instance. So always you have to, if you want to be successful, you have to focus on people. So you have to really support talent, and the talent could flourish in the city because otherwise they go somewhere else. If you got a really huge budget, you can buy someone coming in and doing a performance and then leaving. So, but it doesn't leave a trace on the city. So you have to really focus on your people in your territory or city and help them to develop and also help them to connect. That's super important. So that's and you have a different programs or different ways how to approach that, but it's mostly you have to create a physical space because people are very territorial. You have to focus on the educational part, so you run different educational or professional development programs, entrepreneurial programs, etc. And then you have to really work with the civic society as well. So there is a rise or increase in acceptance and tolerance, and you really build your audiences. Depends on, of course, on the sector of CCIs you focus on. But if you go in general terms, there could be a kind of a cookbook, or this is things you sooner or later would have to do. Yeah, but every city is different, so the overall strategy and long-term goals and everything should be tailor-made for the city because it comes from a different background. It comes from or with the different externalities, other sectors, connectiveness, and other stuff. So yeah, but basically there I can see the similar patterns in those success stories, and it always comes to entrepreneurial support, cross-sectoral collaboration, civic engagement, and international networks.
Yeah. What would you say? Like, why is the creative industries, creative cultural industries, such a good motor for these kind of changes in cities? What would you say, Tom? Like, what is so specific about the creative industries?
Well, I think we need to actually have a critical discussion at some point about how the creative industries can play a role in the future of cities, given the crisis that we're seeing. And given that the creative industries has suffered so much from the pandemic, because it's a sector of micro enterprises, freelancers, very fragile in this storm of economic, social, and health challenges. So the narrative about the creative industries until just 18 months ago was very much about growth, about competitiveness, and to an extent about inclusion, about fairness, about more broadly the application of creativity. I think there have been some muddled sort of interpretations. Everybody thinking, or some people thinking of the creative industries as a panacea, or some people thinking there is a quick way to develop and grow your creative economy, neglecting the importance of the arts, of social engagement, of community infrastructure. So the narrative is changing, but clearly we can see the evidence base across Europe and internationally that the creative industries has grown significantly over the last 20 years or so, powered by digital, obviously. It's become very absorbent of labor. It's also a high aspirational sector, and it deals with ideas. It deals with aspirational goods and services and experiences. So that becomes something that translates nicely for urban development, because a city is a product, an identity, a brand. So the creative industries is a way of productizing the city. And again, we need to be cynical, because you can't just have a quick fix and have a brand and a marketing campaign without having the substance underneath. But I think that it's about economic development. Increasingly, though, we need to think about inclusion. We need to think about climate emergency. We need to think about sustainable development more broadly. And we need to think about how the creative industries can help cities to recover. But to do that, they need to be supported to recover. So the narrative has changed, and we need new tools. And something like European Capital of Culture will have to change, because we can't ride on the wave that we were before. Everything has to be remodeled now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we have a lot more to discuss,
Totally,
but
yeah.
we have to move to. Oh no, we are moving to the sessions now, and we can dig deeper into the topics that you're interested in. So feel free. After we'll do a short end round now, Tim and me. But after that, you will be moving to the sessions, and then you can just choose which of our three speakers you would like to talk to. And then you can join that room. Of course, you can switch rooms at any time. Feel free to activate your camera and microphone and get in touch with us directly. But if you're cooking or already in bed or something and don't want to activate your camera, you can also just contribute in the chat if you feel better like this. Thanks, everybody, for this.
Thank you.
And see you all in a bit in the sessions. And Tim, we have some stuff on our list. We have some announcements for the next events.
Yeah, first of all, also thank you again for everyone who joined already and for this interesting conversation. I think we got a lot of insights and a lot of topics to also discuss now and to go more into detail. But I also want to advise already our next learning journey on the 13th of October. And anytime you can visit our website and find interesting events, have a look into it and subscribe. And also, if you cannot wait for the next learning journey on 13th of October, we also have a YouTube channel. So on this YouTube channel, you find our previous learning journeys. You can always have a look and browse through. We have really a lot of topics like new work or hybrid events and digital education. Yeah. So it's totally worth a visit, and we will happy to also answer your comments there and have a discussion.
Yeah, we already I already said everything before that it's on the list for me now, but we have to talk. We have to do the. Shouldn't forget the questionnaire, because there's a second part of the questionnaire that I will activate now. So please go to the questionnaire. No, not delete. Make visible. Sorry.
It's the one I mixed up before. This is the one now.
Please go to the it says on my thing it says Umfragen, so it's probably questionnaire or something in English. And Tim will read out the questions for you again that you should be
exactly. First question. Sorry. First question is: do you know any collaborations between the cultural and creative industries and other sectors? Second question: are these collaborations a role model for you? And the third question, do you perceive the Center of Excellence as providing impulses for cooperation between the cultural and creative industries and other sectors?
Yeah, and once you've answered that, you can head over to our sessions. Just click on the left side and we'll see you there. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks again to all our 3 experts. And thanks to you, Tim, for having me.
No, it's always a pleasure with you. Yeah.
And see you in the sessions or next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.